Hey everybody, it's Emma Lightning, and today I wanted to do something different, sort of. I actually wanted to do kind of a book review. Um, no one's here, my roommates are in class, and I've got some free time, so I decided let's make a video, and I didn't really want to record a game because it always, I need to get new equipment and a better setup. It just because it's not good, and I have a Mac and it's not the best computer for gaming. So after I finish Dream Daddy, it might be a little bit before I can record another game, but I do want to. And so for now, instead of doing just a regular vlog or anything, I decided I wanted to review some books because I've always loved reading. I've always been a huge bookworm. Most of these fall into the young adult realistic fiction, drama category, so if that's not your thing, but I'd still recommend just checking out at least one of these. So yeah, so let's get. Okay, so the first one is very much a young adult author, Rainbow Rowell. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of her because she wrote Eleanor and Park, and she also wrote Fangirl, which is one of my favorite books because it's very relatable. I know that sounds super cliche, but it's a really good read. She's very good at writing dialogue, between characters, and she's very good at writing she's very good at writing the reader, if that makes any sense, because the main character, she's a freshman in college, and her name is Kath, and she's a fangirl. There's this book series. It's basically a Harry Potter parody, I guess. And she writes fan fiction for it, and the story's about her, and she's very introverted and shy, and she's got social anxiety and everything, and so the story is just about her going through college and opening herself. It's a lot more interesting than I'm making it sound, I swear. It's kind of a romance. It is a romance, but it's not. It doesn't start like a romance. It's like a romance family drama, and so if that's your thing, then I would definitely recommend this. And if you're just starting college or in high school, then I would recommend it. And if you are big into fan fiction, then I would recommend it. And the really cool thing, I don't have it with me, it's at home, but the author, she wrote not a spin-off of this, but the characters that are the story within the story, the characters that the main characters writes about. The Rainbow Rowell, she actually wrote another book called Carry On, which is the title of the Kath, the main character, her fan fiction that she's writing about these characters. So the author actually took those characters. She was like, I have to write a story about these characters now, and it's super good, and it's comparable to Harry Potter in that it's about well, they're not wizards, they're magicians, but it's fantasy, and but it's not like Harry Potter. The story is very different, and it's I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's definitely that's a love story, but it's also a friendship story. I'm not gonna say anything else about it, but it's really good. So I recommend both Fangirl and Carry On for everyone. So Crank by Ellen Hopkins is the first in. She writes a lot of books, and it looks super thick and intimidating, but it's not. So you look at the pages, it's written in a poetry sort of style, free-form poetry. It doesn't rhyme or anything, but it's written in a very poetic style. It's got rhythm, and it's about a girl who gets into methamphetamine, and just her story and how she struggles with it mentally and how it affects her family, and it's really powerful, I guess. And I'm actually reading the sequel again, Glass. Ellen Hopkins, she writes a lot of books in this style, but Crank and Glass are actually follow the same character, and the other books don't. Some of them have crossovers, sort of, but these two, actually there's a third one, it's called Fallout, and it also follows the main character. I'm not going to spoil anything else because that would spoil the first book. I'm not going to say anything else about Fallout because it spoils the end of the first book, but they're all very good. If you don't mind, like, the main character, she is, I don't want to say she's unlikable, but she's very morally questionable, which is good because like you can't have you don't love her all the time, which I think is really good because it makes you think. Like it puts you in her shoes and then it forces you to like look at where she came from, and it's very good. This one is not so much a young adult title. It is Agatha Christie, and for those of you who don't know, she is an old like mystery writer. This book was published in, gosh, I don't know, 1939, so it's old, so that it might take you a minute to get used to like the older style of writing, and it's also British, and I doubt that makes a difference, but it's very good, and it's like a very popular, it's called 10 Little Indians, but it also goes by the title And Then There Were None because it updated, and you can't really use this title, and it's based on the poem 10 Little Indians, which actually went by another very questionable name a long time ago, and I don't know if the book was ever called that, but I'm not even going to say it. You can imagine. Anyway, so I'm just going to call it And Then There Were None. Well, no, I'm going to call it 10 Little Indians because that's what it says on the title. This is like an older copy, so... Anyway, the story, I'm sure like everybody knows the story. 10 people, I don't know if it's 10 people, 10 people total. They're in a mansion and they got invited there by got invited to a dinner from like the owner of the mansion, and they don't know who it is, and it's a mystery, and they get there and their host isn't there, and then everyone just starts dying. It's a murder mystery, so it's like the classic murder mystery. If like you've heard the story, and so this is where it comes from. I think this is like the first one to really do that. And so it's a murder mystery, and it's very good, and there are secrets, and everyone is just a terrible person. It's so good. I actually saw the play version of it once, and that's also very good. They set it to Beatles music, and then they named all the victims after titles of Beatles songs. Like there was an Eleanor Rigby and a Strawberry Fields. It was very good. And then a few years later, I found the book, and I was like, well, I might as well read the book. And the book was very good. It has a very different ending from the play. I'm just gonna say that right now. So if you have happened to see the play, the book does not end quite as well. But it is very good, suspenseful, and yeah, and it's got kind of a twist ending, so good. This one, it is heavy in its content, but not in its tone, which I very much appreciate. It's Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson, and I'm sure if you are into young adult literature, you've heard of it, or you know the story, or you've read it, or you saw the movie made with Kristen Stewart, which was actually very good. Like Kristen Stewart is she's a good actress. She's subtle, which is great because this is like a very, there's not a lot going on in it because the book is in first person. It takes inside the main character, Melinda. It takes place inside her head. It's her thoughts as she's starting high school, and she's an outcast, and she's lonely, but she's trying not to show it because, I don't know, she lost all her friends. Her friends hate her because I'm explaining this horribly, I'm so sorry. She's an outcast. She's starting high school because over the summer she busted a party that was happening, and so everybody hates her and they don't bother to ask why she broke up the party. And as you read the book, it becomes much more obvious why she did what she did. And you just you get to love her. Like you spend this time like inside her head, and you're like, oh my gosh, it was written in like 1999, but you can still very much feel everything she's saying, and everything she's saying is still very relatable and applicable, which is probably not that great of a thing, but I've read it so many times, I love it. So if you haven't read it, definitely check it out, and I'm going to put a trigger warning for content. But a lot of these I would give a trigger warning for content. But it's good. And the ending is very good, I think. Okay, this author, Julianne Peters, her books are mainly written about like gay and lesbian characters, which is so great. I love it. This is the only one of her books that I actually own. Well, actually, I might own another. I can't remember if I do or not, but it's not here with me. This one is called Keeping You a Secret, and it's my favorite. It's a obviously it's a lesbian story, and it's about a girl who meets the girl who helps her. Well, she doesn't help her. She makes her find out that she's gay, and like she's dating this guy, and then she meets this girl who's very openly gay, and it helps the main character Holland figure out her feelings, and she spends a long time questioning, but then I mean, it's not a secret that they get together. It's a lesbian love story, but when they do, it's just so beautiful and satisfying, and it's a very emotional story, and it's sad at times because it gets into like the real life aspect, because unfortunately, obviously, the gay people are not given the same rights and fair treatment as straight people, which, I mean, you know how it is, but it's a very good story. And Julianne Peters, her other books that I would recommend are Luna, which is about the sister of a transgender girl and how she's like dealing with it, and how she's the only one who knows that her, well, I guess it is her sister, is a transgender girl, but the rest of the world sees it as her brother, sees her as a guy. But it's about that, and how like it's hard to keep a secret. It's hard to be the only one keeping a secret for someone you love, and how it affects them. That one's very good. It really helped me personally. It helped me understand what it's like to be trans just a little bit, or at least know someone well who is trans. You know, yeah. Another title that people might be familiar with is Go Ask Alice, and this was written in the 70s, so like the language is a little outdated. Not the language. It's a little outdated, but which I wasn't expecting the first time I read it. I didn't really know what it was about, except for the fact that it is supposedly based on the diary of a 15-year-old girl who gets into drugs. Someone slips her LSD at a party, and then she keeps like going down this path. And it's not slow. It's just subtle. Like the first time I read it, I was like, up until the ending, I was like, oh, I was kind of expecting like more dramatic, but the more you have to read it a couple times to like really, I mean, it puts you into her head, but you have to read it a couple times. I had to read it a couple times to really get the full, like, oh wow, this is bad. I mean, I know it's bad, obviously, drugs are bad, most of them, and I've actually heard, like, that it's only very loosely based on someone's diary. Like, supposedly what they did was, they just changed the names, and everything she wrote in here was actually stuff that she wrote. They changed the names and locations, but I'm not positive if I believe that. This one is actually written very much like a diary. This one sounds like it really could be true, and I think that's why it got so popular. I mean, I do believe that it's based on someone's actual story. I believe it's based on a lot of people's stories, but I'm not sure, because I have heard from a couple, but I did read that it's not 100%, which kind of sucks, but, you know, I mean, you enjoy the story, and people don't enjoy it like, ooh, that's great, but enjoy it like, it hits you, like, emotionally. And the author, who, I mean, it does say anonymous, but I believe the companion books were written by the same author, but they are written in a very different style. There are two of them that I own, and I both like very much. This one is also about a drug user. It's called Lucy in the Sky. And, oh, that's another thing. The main characters, they're not named. Like, you would be like, oh, everyone calls her Alice, but that's not the main character's name. I mean, I guess it is by now, since everyone calls her that, but it never mentions her name in the book at all. And so you don't really know what to call her. You just call her the protagonist. But yeah, Alice, I guess. And this one takes place in modern day, and so it was written much later. It's modern day, and it's also about a drug user, and so the narrator of this one sounds a little bit less like, well, it still sounds like a diary, but it goes a little bit into like too much detail, to the point where this doesn't necessarily sound like something a person would write, but it's still pretty believable. The narrator, she can get a little bit not annoying. I don't think she's annoying, but sometimes you're just like, really? Or she capitalizes a lot of stuff. Just she does a lot of like capitalizations and like OMGs but you do learn, like, she does grow on you a little bit. And so if you want like a more updated version of Go Ask Alice, check out this one. And then we have, these books are so beat up, I've read them so many times, I don't take very good care of my books, but they're well loved. This one, Letting Anna Go, is not about drugs. It is about a girl who suffers from anorexia. She develops it, and it's about her friends, and, well, it's again, it's also a diary, but this one, you can just tell that it was not someone's diary. It's very wordy, it's very much written like a novel rather than a diary, but it's still very good. Like, you still like feel the things she's feeling, at least I did. It's still very much a real world problem. But it's still very good. It's still very relatable, very real world, and you learn to, I mean, like with all of these, you get it from a first person story, you really get in their heads, and you learn to like them, which, never mind, I'm not going to spoil anything, but, I mean, it's probably not, like, a very well-kept secret, how these don't exactly, because they are, like, cautionary tales more than anything. They're not, like, it doesn't stop you from enjoying the story, knowing that it doesn't end well, but it is very much more of a cautionary tale, and, like, don't expect happy endings. That's all I'm saying. This last one is very special to me. It's one that isn't as popular. It's called This Song Will Save Your Life by Layla Sales. And the thing about this one is, I found the author's website and I actually emailed her right after I read it, and she emailed me back, and it was great, and I just was telling her, like, how much the book meant to me and how I appreciated it. And it is about it's a young adult story. It's about a teenage girl who's suffering from, like, issues, but the thing is, the start of the story is her explaining why she she sort of tried to, again, trigger warning, she sort of tried to commit suicide, but she wasn't, like, really thinking about it, but it was still, like, an impulse thing, and it was just, because she's bullied and everything, and it's about how she recovers from that, and it's about how she learns to, like, love life again, and that's just so important, because it's not a depressing or sad story. It has, I mean, not everything works out her way, obviously, but it has, like, a hopeful, happy, that's the thing, it's not even an ending, because, like, she's just gonna, she lives, and, like, it doesn't get rid of all her problems, it doesn't get rid of, like, depression or just anxiety or anything like that, but, like, she's really cool. I love the main character, the narrator, whatever, I love her, and it's all about music, and, like, friendship, and just, most of all, it's self-acceptance, and, like, learning to pick yourself up, because it's, like, nobody saves her. Nobody, like, pulls her out and says, or no one person does that. She does it for herself, and it's just great. That's one of the best messages that I think a story like that can have. Like, stories about suicide, it's not somebody's gonna come save you. It's people, if you learn to let people in, they're gonna disappoint you a lot. They're not going to be your savior. You can't count on one person to be your savior, but you have to learn to be your own savior. And even if you don't, like, even if not everything works out, you just know that you carried yourself through the bad times. And there's a lot of, like, good music recommendations in here that I found. And it's just, I don't know, it's really special to me. It's a good book. And that's all I have right now. I really like doing stuff like this, just, like, rambling a little bit. If you want me to do a review of, like, other things, maybe some more books, or some, like, less, like, young adult. I do have, like, other books. I don't have the copies with me right now. But I love recommending things to people, and hopefully you'll end up checking one of these out. You can find them at most libraries, I think. Most of them you can find at, like, pretty much any young adult section of the library. And, yeah, thank you, everybody, for watching, listening to me ramble. Hopefully it was at least a little bit entertaining, and leave a comment, and subscribe for maybe more stuff like this, maybe some other stuff, who knows. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. So I will see you next time. Bye!